Hey guys, Andrew, welcome back to the channel. So guys, got this out at my local library. It's Don't Worry Darling. Guys, gonna do a review of it. From the outset, I need to say that I am a fan of Dr. Jordan Peterson. May not agree with everything he says, but see a lot of common sense and wisdom in what he's saying and the general universal applicability of it, of tidying your room, aim at something, find the joy in the small moments, which is what he's saying when pet a stray cat when you find it on the streets. He's saying find the joy in the little things, aim at something. For someone with a disability who's in a wheelchair, unless they have someone who's willing to work with them, they might not be able to run a 5K. They might have someone who pushes them or a support worker. That's great. It might be running a YouTube channel, but it might also just be being able to make themselves a cup of coffee, buttering toast, getting out of bed independently, getting dressed or having a shower independently, not getting jealous when someone else is getting attention and they feel that all the attention should be on them. Knowing how to use a toilet and shower and knowing what fluids go in which one. Being able to clean. But guys, let's get back into it. So, yep, got it out at my local library, didn't buy it. So, guys, I found that it was a bit slow in the beginning, a bit gratuitous in some of the sex scenes. But then, guys, the plot twist I felt was a bit too mashup of Stepford Wives meets Get Out meets The Matrix meets some of the online discourse. And as we know, the psychiatrist is actually based on Dr. Jordan Peterson, and he has said that he's upset by it, but there is a right to freedom of expression. And so, guys, spoilers incoming, when you realize that they are in a simulation, it starts to discuss, well, are these women here by their own choice? It's talking about the patriarchy, but it is a system that we've had for a reason and it does work. And we see that some of the women know that they're in the simulation, that they have chosen this. Some of the women don't know, and some of the items that they perceive to be real aren't real as well. It has very 1950s Stepford Wives vibes about it. And guys, if you have a seizure disorder, there are some bits when the person is starting to realize, starting to question her reality, with some music that I would advise you guys to watch very carefully or at your own risk. I did get a headache after watching this one because of those psychedelic moments. And it talked about being able to question your own narrative, question your own reality. It does also talk about the incel movement. And talking to the older generation, they don't know what we're talking about when we say the incel, the red pill, the blue pill, the white pill. So, guys, an incel is an involuntary celibate male, generally with undiagnosed autism, ADHD, who is chronically online. That being self explanatory, he's online all the time. He follows people like Andrew Tate with the pickup artists and believes that you can pick up a woman and a girlfriend if you do the right cheat codes, and then wonder why they're chronically depressed. And generally, these men don't have great hygiene. They're still living at home with parents. Guys, do not get me wrong, living at home with parents in this day and age in this economy can be an absolute choice, but I'm talking about the person who is dependent despite being in their early 20s, going into their 30s, that are still spending money on junk food, that are still not willing to keep their room clean, dependent on others, have not essentially been pushed out of the nest or pushed to grow up to the best of their ability. And so they're on the Reddit threads that are radicalizing them against women. So men go their own way. And men go their own way started as a men's liberation group that were fighting for the rights of fathers as well. And so it's now moved to, well, if women are going to treat me like that, I don't want to be associated with women. I'm going to be the pickup artist. I'm going to be the Lothario. And then they realise that women aren't really attracted to that type of person. They're looking for a stable male who's got their own place, even lives with housemates, who is aiming at something, who takes pride in their hygiene. That's what Dr. Jordan Peterson is talking about. Guys, at the beginning, when you don't realize they're in this simulation, they're in a planned village. So they're in this ideal village where the men are working, the women are at home. There is piped radio and inspirational messages, and they do revoice some of Dr. Jordan Peterson's content. But let me tell you, this person must be, I think it's Sarah Silverman, must be a critic of Dr. Jordan Peterson because they completely missed the message and missed the mark. This could have been a really great commentary on society, technology, where we're at with technology, Reddit, TikTok, the incel movement, taking the red pill. And so that's believing that things are unjust, that we need to find a better way, that to not trust our governments, to not trust big pharma, to not trust the medical industry, to do your own homework. While doing your own homework, having a healthy mistrust of the government, great idea. But we trust every day. We trust that the sun will rise. We'll trust that it'll rain eventually. We trust that the food we're eating has some level of nutrition. I trust that the support workers got my best interests at heart. We trust that the electricity is going to turn on, especially in a first world country. And that's the thing where Dr. Jordan Peterson is saying, have a bit of gratitude that when we've got clean water, there are people who are making it clean and hygienic, who are maintaining the pipes, who, when we have the electricity turn on so we can have our TV, our computer, our phone, our internet, that there is someone maintaining the wires who is, and especially out in the cold or in Australia, the heat, they are maintaining that infrastructure. That there is someone who, through logistics, whether that be a train, a truck, a car, delivery truck, is getting food from a farmer to a warehouse, to a market, to the supermarket. Yes, if you don't trust the pesticides, if you have multiple chemical syndrome, definitely try gardening, definitely try the farmers markets or farm to plate, or look at urban gardening yourself, definitely. There's a couple of items in here when people realise that she is starting to realise that she is in the thing is she realises there's everything is supplied by the Victory Corporation. There's eggs without yolks. There's an endless supply of coffee and tea. The women aren't discussed in finances. That the men are able to exit the simulation, but the women aren't. And the women have this 1950s Stepford Wives vibe about them. The major difference between this and the Stepford Wives is the Stepford Wives is considered a psychological horror because you don't realise until that power storm when they come out that the women then have their agency given back to them. This The main woman is essentially kidnapped and held and restrained against her own will. It's only when they start singing a song to her to placate her, because it's all, don't worry, darling, everything is roses. This is how the world's supposed to be. The men go out to work, the women are at home, the women have the children, do ballet, paint, host the elaborate meals for the husbands to get the promotion, celebrating, things like that. But when you realize that's the simulation, and that the psychiatrist being the villain doing this thought experiment, you see that the person's missed the point. So that's a really interesting thing. It could have been so much more of a psychological thriller, because the ending is you see her going out into the desert in one thing, and that's the one rule. They say to not go out into the desert because they are in Nevada, and someone sees a plane crash. And there's only two women who have seen this plane crash and start to question. You realize that the only way for this woman to escape the simulation is to unalive herself in the simulation, but that also unalives them in the real world. They're in the desert. This person saw a plane crash. She went out to help as well, and that is against the rules. People didn't believe her, and she saw the headquarters, and she started to realize that the things that she was experiencing, despite being in her mind, being the simulation, are very real. So a house trying to trap her, her wrapping her head, and do not recommend this at all, wrapping her head in Glad wrap, and being able to breathe through that, which logically in the real world you should not be able to do. And then the last scene is her realizing that she had a life in the real world beforehand. She was an OR surgeon, and that she basically had a dead drop beat boyfriend who was on the internet all of the time, needed to go and have a good shower, clean his hair, get a job. Basically, like, she's done 16-hour shift in the OR, and he's complaining that I haven't eaten, what's for dinner? And she says, I don't have my phone in the OR. You could have texted, you could have got food yourself. And so this is the people who we talk about are incels, that they are waiting for the world to deliver them opportunities on a plate, not realizing that you have to put the work in first. So guys, the end scene is quite an interesting commentary. She ends up with a glass and giving the boyfriend that's trapped her in the simulation a chest wound as well. The women, then the simulation starts to break down because he is an integral part of the foundation as well. You then see him flashbacking into being picked to be part of essentially what is this psychological experiment as well. And then you start to see the wife jump in his car that he's bought as part of a promotion, because he then had programming skills, so he was chosen to be part of the Victory Project. He'd got a promotion, he was part of the advisory board for it, and it comes out that she is able to gun it into the desert, into headquarters. The people in the red suits that take the people who are questioning the simulation away come after her. We see a shelter in place. So that shelter in place order, very reminiscent. This was filmed 2022. I believe, I'll correct myself if I'm wrong, or correct me in the comments. So very reminiscent of COVID as well. And then we see her being jumping through into the real world. We never actually know if she makes it or not. In doing the research and the reading for this video, the original ending was much darker, of her going after the boyfriend in real life. And it's an interesting commentary on the way people perceive that the world should be, and how the internet has brought us together but at the same time disconnected us, and how it's given people who are marginalised a voice, but at the same time it can radicalise people. So young men into incels who believe that the world owes them a living, that they're angry. And these young men, in real life, there is hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of young men who have read Dr. Jordan Peterson's books, who have watched his live streams, who've read his content on Quora, and realised that it's what a father who was doing a good job would have said to them. Or if that person didn't have a father figure in their life, before a lot of the overarching laws around child abuse, child neglect came in, and the rights of a child, it would have been what a scout leader, a coach, or an uncle would have said to them about, hey, you need to pull your socks up, you need to get a job, you need to aim at something. That if you have a learning disability, maybe steering them away from college and into trade schools. Guys, in my part of the world, Australia, unless that tradie has a addiction to fast toys, alcohol, or illegal substances, never seen a broke tradie. So definitely consider trade school as well. But I've seen a lot of people who were university educated in a lot of debt. And so this is where Dr. Jordan Peterson is saying, well, start at the fast food job. It's at least something on your resume. Have a look at the online learning. And he is a professor emeritus. So he is the very definition of an intellectual and an academic. And he is speaking out against the universities and saying, if you can avoid it, don't send your kids to university because of the people who are teaching them, the people who are radicalizing them and indoctrinating them with critical race theory, with gender theory, with queer theory, that are only sociological theories. They cannot be empirically proven. And this is where this really does fall down. It could have been my generation's Stepford Wives, but guys, if you're a fan of Dr. Jordan Peterson and want to see the critics version, I would say it's something to watch on a Saturday night if you can't find anything else on Netflix. Definitely give it a go. The cinematography in it is absolutely amazing. The costuming, absolutely amazing as well. And guys, it also discusses the role of psychiatric medication and psychiatric treatment. And the one thing that does happen in the simulation is that the wife starts to question, starts to realize that things aren't right, that things aren't all as they seem. She starts to test things out, and that's when, at her husband's promotional party, they realize, and she starts questioning, and then someone's wife admits that she knows that she'd chosen this for herself because she had lost children, but in the simulation the children are alive and they're well. It's never discussed what had happened, whether they'd experienced child loss or she'd lost them in a custody battle, but she had chose this life. And that's the thing, it discusses freedom of choice and the freedom to medicate or not to medicate. Because, guys, so many people with a disability or mental health condition the first thing that they go to is medication, and medication can have horrendous side effects. Medication definitely has its place, but also definitely has horrendous side effects. So, guys, I'm not going to give it like stars because everyone's got different tastes, but as an independent movie that's discussing real world consequences and the Matrix and incels and women being successful and powerful and men resenting them because of that, very interesting movie, but wouldn't actively go out and see it at the cinemas as well. So, guys, thank you for watching. If you wanted to subscribe, be grateful. So, the other places that you can find me is over on the main channel, which is Annie in Wonderland, How to Experience the NDIS. Again, over on Blogger. It's Andrea Nunn over on TikTok as well.